Another great little way to organize your scenes in Maya is to use layers. Now, layers allow you to quickly hide and show groups of objects as well as freeze and template them so that way you don't accidentally select them. Now, here we have a scene that has a lot of objects in it, and there may come a time when we don't want parts of the scene to be visible. A really good example of this might be the roof of this house. We might want to pop the roof so we can look inside. Well, an easy way to do that is to use layers. Now, layers exist under the channel box as the layer editor. So you want to make sure that you have your channel box turned on, and then down here at the bottom is the layer editor. So let's take a look at this scene in the outliner. Now, in the outliner, we've got everything organized according to hierarchy. So I have a separate hierarchy for the roof, as well as the walls and the floor of the scene, as well as the furniture is all collected into separate hierarchies as well. But this might not be enough for our scene. So if we wanted to say hide the roof, I'd have to select the roof and then hide it, and that can get cumbersome. So I'm going to go ahead and create a layer for the roof. So we can do this in one of two ways. I can select the roof, and then under layers in the layer editor, I've got two options. One is create empty layer, and that just creates a blank holder into which I can put objects. Or we can create layer from selected, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do create layer from selected. So it takes everything that I have selected in the outliner and it puts it into this layer called layer 1. Now, if I want to be a little bit more descriptive, I can double click on this layer and then just type in a new name. So I'm going to call this roof layer and hit save. And so now once we have the roof layer, we can easily pop the top of the building by hitting the V button. So when V is active, the objects are visible. When it is off, the objects are off. Now, another way to use this is to use this button here to the right. So if I hit this once, it templates this object. So I can actually see that the roof is there, but I can't select it. Another way to do this is to click a third time and turn on R. Now, R allows the object to render so we can see it, but again, I can't select it. And when this is blank, it allows me to select those objects. Now let's go ahead and create another layer. So I'm going to go ahead and this time do create empty layer, and that creates this layer 1. And let's say we're in this house and we want to work on some objects here. And I keep accidentally selecting the windows and the wall or the floor, and I really don't want that to happen. Now, I already have everything organized here by structure, so the walls and floor are its own group. So all I have to do is select that, and remember, we created an empty layer. So let's go ahead and just add those objects into it. So I'm going to right-click over this and just do Add Selected Objects. And when I do, those objects are now part of the layer. So if I make that layer invisible, the walls and floor go away. In fact, let's go ahead and double click on this, and let's just call this, say, structure layer. So now I have a layer for the structure and a layer for the roof. Now, a really handy thing to do is to either template this or hit R, and that way now I can't select the walls of the building. So if I want to select something, I can marquee select, and I'll just get that stuff inside of the building. Now, if we want, we can take objects into and out of layers as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select the table and these chairs here. And let's just go ahead and create a layer from selected. And so now I have a layer for that part of the scene. Now, let's say I didn't want the table to be part of that. Well, all I have to do is select the table, and then right-click over the layer and say Remove Selected Objects. And when I do, now just the remaining objects are hidden or shown. So I can bring things into and out of layers very easily as well. Now, another thing you can do is you can select objects in a layer as well. So if I right click over this layer 1 and I say select objects, it will select only those objects that are in the layer. So, layers are a very useful way to organize your scene. You can organize scenes into background, foreground objects, and group objects logically so that you can hide and show and limit selection for those objects.